You're not bad at studying. You've just been using the wrong method. I know this because I've been there. I used to study for hours, reading, highlighting, doing everything I thought was right. But the next day, I couldn't remember anything, and you've probably felt this too, confident while studying, then completely blank in the exam. It's frustrating. It makes you think maybe you're just not good at studying. But the truth is, the problem isn't you. It's the method. Most people think studying means reading and repeating, but your brain doesn't work like a storage device. It works like a network. When you learn something new, your brain tries to connect it with what you already know. If it connects, you remember it. If it doesn't, you forget. That's why cramming doesn't last. So instead of trying to store information, you need to learn how to connect it. In this video, I'll show you 5 powerful study methods that will help you learn faster and remember what you study. Number 1 method is previewing or scanning before studying. But here's the problem. Most students make a simple mistake when they start studying. Now, let's talk about what most students actually do, especially in a busy environment like the US, where schedules are packed and time feels limited. Think about your typical day. You have classes, assignments, maybe sports practice or a part-time job, and by the time you sit down to study, you're already tired. So, naturally, you try to get through as much material as possible, as quickly as possible. You open your textbook, start from the first page, highlight important sentences, maybe use different colors to feel more organized, and try to memorize everything in one go. I used to do this all the time. I thought the more I read, the more I would remember. But what actually happened was the opposite. I was putting in the hours, but not getting the results. My brain felt overloaded. It didn't understand what was important, what connected to what, or why any of it mattered. It was like collecting random pieces of information without a clear picture. That's why so many students feel like certain subjects are too hard. In reality, it's not always the subject. It's the way you're approaching it. Instead of jumping straight into reading, you need to take a step back and prepare your brain first. Before you go into the details, just scan the chapter. Look at the headings, subheadings, and any diagrams. Ask yourself simple questions like, what is this about? Or, what am I going to learn here? You're not trying to understand everything yet. You're just getting familiar. This step creates a mental map, and once your brain has that map, it becomes much easier to follow and understand the details. It's like checking directions before starting a drive. You don't just start moving without knowing where you're going. Number 2. Method is active recall instead of rereading. Now here's where most people make their biggest mistake, and this might sound surprising. Rereading is one of the least effective ways to learn. It feels safe, it feels productive, but it doesn't actually build strong memory. I learned this the hard way. I remember preparing for an important exam where I kept rereading the same notes again and again. Every time I read them, everything looked familiar, and I convinced myself that I knew it. But when I closed the book and tried to explain it, I couldn't. That's when I realized something important. Familiarity is not the same as understanding. Just because something looks familiar doesn't mean you can actually recall it. What really works is something called active recall, and it's much simpler than it sounds. After you read something, close your book and try to remember what you just learned. You can say it out loud, write it down, or even just think about it. At first, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You might not remember much, and that's okay. That struggle is actually a good sign. It means your brain is working. I remember the first time I tried this, it felt like I'd forgotten everything, but I kept going, and slowly, I started remembering more. That's because when you try to recall something, your brain strengthens those connections. It's like going to the gym. The workout feels hard, but that's what makes you stronger. This also changes how you take notes. Instead of copying everything from the book, you start writing what you understand. You recall first, then check, then improve. This makes your notes more useful and easier to review later. Number 3. Method is spaced revision, and this is where many students either overdo it or do it the wrong way. Your brain is designed to forget things that it doesn't think are important. So if you don't revisit what you study, you will lose it. But revision doesn't mean rereading everything again and again. It means testing your memory and then fixing what you missed. A simple way to do this is to review your material after a day, then again after a few days, and then later after a longer gap. Each time you revisit the information, it becomes stronger and easier to remember. This is especially important if you're preparing for something long-term, like college exams or standardized tests. In the US, where students often juggle multiple subjects and responsibilities, it's easy to forget things simply because there's so much going on. That's why spacing out your revision is so helpful. It allows your brain to refresh and strengthen information over time. And as you keep doing this, something interesting happens. You start needing less time to review. What once took you an hour might only take 15 minutes later. That's where you actually save time. It might feel slow in the beginning, but in the long run it's much more efficient. So instead of rushing through your material, focus on building strong memory step by step. I've noticed that the things I connected with emotionally stayed with me much longer than the things I just memorized for a test. In the beginning, this way of studying might feel slower and harder. You might feel like you're taking more time than others. But you're not falling behind. You're building something stronger. The methods that feel easy often don't last. The ones that take effort are the ones that actually work. It might feel harder at first, but this is what actually works. Study like this, and everything changes. You understand faster, you remember longer, and for the first time, you actually feel confident. Number 4 method is interleaving, and this is where most US students are actually making a mistake without even realizing it. Think about a typical day. You come home after classes, maybe sports practice or even a part-time job, and by the time you sit down to study, you're already tired. So, naturally, you just want to get things done quickly. You open your math homework and start solving the same type of problem again and again, like 20 algebra questions in a row. It feels easy, it feels smooth, and it feels like you're being productive. But in reality, your brain is going on autopilot. You're just repeating a pattern, not really thinking. That's why, in exams, when a slightly different question shows up, you suddenly feel stuck. So, here's what you should be doing instead. Mix things up. Do a few algebra problems, then switch to geometry, then maybe try a couple of word problems. Now your brain is forced to pause and think, what kind of problem is this? And which method should I use? This is exactly how real exams work. Questions are always mixed, not organized for your comfort. The same applies if you're preparing for something like the SAT. Instead of studying one subject for an hour straight, switch between reading, math, and writing in shorter blocks. Or in science, instead of focusing on one chapter all night, move between related topics and come back later. At first, this will feel harder and even a bit confusing, especially when you're already tired. But that difficulty is actually what makes your brain stronger. A simple way to start is to study one topic for 20 to 25 minutes, take a short break, then switch to a different topic, and repeat this cycle a few times. Over time, you'll notice that you're not just memorizing, you're understanding faster and reacting better to new problems. It may feel messy in the beginning, but this method trains your brain for real situations, and that's what actually helps you perform better and feel more confident in exams. Number 5, method is practice, analysis, and real-life connection. Finally, let's talk about how to take your learning to the next level. Because remembering information is one thing, but being able to use it is what really matters. One of the best ways to do this is through practice. Solve questions, take practice tests, or explain concepts to someone else. But here's something important. A lot of students think doing more tests automatically means better results. That's not true. You don't need to do dozens of tests. What you need is to learn from the ones you do. After each test, take time to analyze your answers. Ask yourself why you got something wrong and why the correct answer is right. This is where real improvement happens. Even a few well-analyzed tests can help you more than many rushed ones. And there's one more thing that can make a big difference. Emotion. Your brain remembers things better when they feel meaningful. So instead of just reading facts, try to connect them to real life. Think about why the information matters, how it affects people, or how it relates to your own experiences. When something feels real, it sticks. And if you study like this, even for just 1 week, You won't just see a difference, you'll feel it. You'll understand faster, remember longer, and for the first time, you'll actually feel confident walking into an exam.